Hello, everyone, and welcome to EASTEM final dissemination event. Today is also the official final day for EASTEM. So we are very happy to share our achievements here with you. And without any further delay, I would like to invite Vice President for Academic Affairs, Associate Professor Shuttama Satasu, from Prince of Sonia University in Thailand to welcome everyone here. The floor is yours, Professor.
Distinguished guests and participants, it is my great pleasure to participate together with all of you in the Global EASTEM Dissemination webinar today. First of all, I would like to congratulate the Euro-Asia collaboration for enhancing STEM education project known as the EASTEM for its successful completion through the cooperation among 3 universities from Europe, 3 universities from Vietnam, 3 universities from Thailand, and 4 universities from Indonesia, which jointly developed the STEM education in Southeast Asia. I am pleased to mention that EASTEM project has significantly promoted the STEM education in Vietnam, Indonesia, and Thailand, and provided many training of the trainer or TOT courses for higher education and K-12 teachers as jointly organized among European and Asian partners. Moreover, this project helped establish STEM Center in all partner universities in Asia and build collaboration between university and local industry. Thai partners, including Chiang Mai University, Mahidol University, and Prince of Songkla University, collaboratively organized several webinars with participants from all over Thailand, with more than 1,000 participants in each webinar. Prince of Songkla University has been fortunate to be part of the EASTEM project. In the last 3 years, our commitment to the continual collaboration with our partner has given rise to several tangible benefits, such as the opening of His Royal Highness Princess Khalifa bin Salman Al Khalifa PSU STEM Center, the development of TOT courses for PSU lecturers and outside agency, university, high schools, and communities, and building collaboration with private sector in curriculum development, outcome-based education, hosting conferences, and research paper publication. I would like to end this speech by expressing my sincere hope that after the end of this project, the cooperation among members will continue for a sustainable development of STEM education and for the continuous development of quality personnel for our respective countries. I also hope that beyond EASTEM project members from all countries will continue organizing joint activity to promote the STEM education in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. It's really very nice to hear your welcome. And before we're gonna move through our agenda of today, I would like to introduce some points that we will be talking about. So soon we will hear Vice-Rector Johan Tysk from Uppsala University that will give a short speech about EASTEM and internal collaboration. Then we will have a professor and chair of the Department of Learning and Engineering Sciences, Arnor Neville Pierce from KTH University, that will talk about STEM backgrounds and success of EASTEM. And then we will have our first panel discussion about EASTEM project in a broader context that will be moderated by Professor Valentina Dagiene from Vilnius University. And then after a short break, we will come back for our second panel discussion, where we will have chance to talk about or to listen for the panelists talking about knowledge gained from teaching and learning methodologies. And this panel then will be introduced by Associate Professor Siegfried Rouvray from the IMTA University in France. And at the very end, we will have a summary and some summarizing words from the three university partners. It's from Vilnius University, from IMTA Atlantic in France, and from Swedish University Uppsala. So the program is really very full and it's very interesting. And as I said, today we are celebrating also the very final of our project together that we were working for 3 years. And so it's really of a great day today. And I'm very happy that so many participants are joining. And we're soon gonna continue with our next speaker. And just let me see that it's joining here. And and before the participant will join, I would like to tell that for the questions, when you have them, please write them to the chat. My colleagues will try to answer. And during the panels, you can also write your question in the Q&A session. And in case there will be enough time for us to take those questions to the panelists, we will take them. Otherwise, they might be responded on the chat. So, you know, and as you know, the session is recorded and we're gonna post it later on to our the main event webpage as well as our platform. And just to mention, at the very end, you will see the link where you can always access to our main webpage, where we have all the information regarding the deliverables and all the happenings that happened during the 3 years of the project, so you can follow it there. It's eastemprojects.eu, but at the end of this session, I will be able to show you also the link. Yes. And now I would like to introduce you our next speaker, Vice-Rector Johan Tysk from Uppsala University, that will give us a speech about EASTEM and international collaboration. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's an honor for me to speak at this dissemination seminar for EASTEM. And as I understand, EASTEM is a capacity building project working on one hand, developing the competence of lecturers and in a student-centered learning, and also bridge the gap between industry and universities. And we live in today, I think it fits what you have done and what you have come up with fits with some global trends that I think we all are aware of, but I nevertheless would like to mention. First of all, I think worldwide, we have many more students in STEM education. I think most countries see it as very important to have, for the future of the countries, to have more students in these types of programs. And in order to be more attractive in our world, you need to be student-centered. You cannot treat everybody the same way. You have to be more individualized, personalized when you approach the students. That's the world we live in. And number two, I think also it's a good time for all of us, that because I think worldwide there is a very positive attitude towards STEM education. I remember in the 70s, it used to be chemistry was seen as, well, this is just environmental pollution. This is not good. science is not good. Science is somehow a threat to the planet. Now, science and engineering is seen as saving the planet, saving the climate crisis, creating energy that is sustainable. We are the savior somehow, which is quite different from what it used to be. This is something we should cherish and be careful to sort of handle this. We have a great confidence from society, and it's very important that we handle this confidence. What you're doing, very important. And I think also what you have been doing in your project, talking about bridging the gap between industry and universities, is very important, because I think we all see that the time and the distance somehow between theory and application is growing smaller and smaller all the time. I think somehow in this corona pandemic, we also see that the vaccine is created very quickly. There is a problem, science comes to help, and it goes very quickly. So I think, again, the path between mathematics and chemistry, physics, computer science, and society today it's much shorter than it used to be. So bridging the gap between industry and universities is getting increasingly important. Now you cannot just be a STEM student. You also need to be able to carry out, to know how to implement your ideas in industry, because the time it is now so much shorter than it used to be. Also, startups, smaller companies also play a much larger role in today's society. It used to be that, at least in Sweden and many Nordic countries, there were a few big companies, and they guaranteed if you were a STEM student, you could go to 5 big companies and your future was secure. Well, that's not the way it is anymore. Smaller companies are taking more and more of our students, and another trend, which maybe would be the last I mentioned, which is also very pronounced, I think, is that the world is more and more connected. I think when this Omicron came up in South Africa, that was a piece of news, and then something like 10 days later, we were all talking about the Omicron variant. And I think I think we're going to experience this more and more the coming years, that even though there are divisions and different opinions and countries that disagree, we are more and more connected. The problems we face are common problems. So I think it's extremely important that EASTEM has been working with Europe and Southeastern Eastern Asian countries, because we need to know, when we work together, we need to know how to work with our cultural differences. If we are supposed to solve tomorrow's problems, we have to be able to understand how different cultures work. And it's not like one culture is right and the other culture is wrong. We just have to be able to communicate across cultural boundaries to solve tomorrow's problems. And I think that's why I think EASTEM and your activities have been so well placed in the world today. So I think disseminating and spreading your ideas and what you have come up with is extremely vital for our future. So thank you very much for your important work, and good luck with spreading what you have come up with. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Johan. It was very nice to hear your presentation. And I really agree that this collaboration should happen between different countries, different regions, and your points were very valid here. Thank you so much. And today, and now we will be moving forward to talk more about the STEM and the background of STEM and the success of EASTEM. And here I would like to invite the professor and chair of the Department of Learning in Engineering and Sciences, Arnold Neville Pierce from KTH Royal Institute of Technology, that will talk more about STEM background and the success of EASTEM. The floor is yours, Professor.
Thank you very much. And sorry for joining at the last minute. I was in another meeting, unfortunately. So it's taken me a minute to do the switch over, but it's wonderful to see so many colleagues here and to be able to say a few words in support of this amazing initiative. So I have a short presentation that I'd like to share with you. I'll give that a go from here, Amelia, and you can just tell me if you see the right screen here.
Yes, we see the right screen.
Let's try and play that presentation and see where we get. So. Off by saying thank you very much for the privilege of being able to address those of you who are here today, this morning, or this evening, as it is for me, because I'm actually transmitting this, would you believe, from Australia, where I am visiting my family. So this is really quite an exciting opportunity, but it also demonstrates what types of amazing technological solutions we have at hand nowadays that really permit us to collaborate across the globe. And one of the things that this project does so successfully is look at this in detail and help to provide models, methods, and techniques for educational innovation that help to span continents and cultures, which I think is one of the things that really makes this type of project very important for us all. To give you a bit of background, where are we coming from here? I've used these slides on a few other occasions, so to some of you, they won't be new. But when we think about the education of the future, it's really important for us to remember that we're talking centrally about the learner in different cultures, the learner in different locations, in different levels of development. Some of these learners are working in industry. Some of these learners are beginning their university careers. Some of these learners are professors and lecturers and senior lecturers, associate professors, engaged in the education of future engineers. But we're all learning something. And as we learn, we're also influenced by the technologies around us. And the thing that allows us to really understand the interaction between the learner and the technologies is our pedagogies. And together, those things come together and give us future education. So what this project is about driving a change in educational innovation through understanding what it means to the future. Again, where are we coming from here? There's enormous pressure on engineering education to provide an answer to future engineering challenges. And these challenges are not purely solved by understanding technological content. They also require intercultural insight. They also require engagement with lifelong learning, and they require engagement with society and engagement with industry. And only through combining these things will we be able to really look at how should tomorrow's engineer be educated. And that's where this project is making a contribution to trying to understand how that happens in a multicultural context, and also how we can transfer experiences between different contexts to enrich education in all types of different locations around the world. And as I said, there's enormous pressure.
To interrupt you. We see still only the very first slide. I don't know if this is the meaning because the slides are not moving.
That is very bad because you should be seeing an animation which presents several different.
Can you try to
reports.
click play again, so that, because now it's still only the small window with some slides on it.
Oh, how strange. Okay, so let me try that again. Stop sharing. What I will do is I will instead maximize back, and I beg your pardon, I thought I understood how to do this in Zoom, but clearly not. What we could do, so what we'll do is I'll overlap this briefly and share the entire screen, and then I will try to, there we go. Now you should see,
very good. Yeah, thank you.
a slide that says drivers of change and innovation.
Yes, exactly what we
Right.
see.
And then we should be able to move ahead, and you should see Royal Academy of Engineering report. Yes?
Yes, the report, yes. Yes.
Okay, brilliant. So I'll just pick up quickly then. So what I was meaning to connect my previous address to was the need that these reports are identifying for us as educators of engineers, that we need to move beyond pure technical knowledge. We need to be educating engineers as global citizens. We need to be understanding what the engineer of 2020, or indeed now that we're in 2022, 2030, needs to know. We need to understand what are these visions of engineering for the future, and what demands that they place on us in terms of encouraging future generations of learners to engage in the types of disciplinary areas that we think are so important. So how should we be working towards this? We should be working towards this by evolving pedagogy and technologies, and they evolve together. And so if you look back in history, perhaps we might have experienced in Uppsala a demonstration of this sort during the 1800s. Actually quite an advanced pedagogical activity here, with many instruments on the desk in front of the demonstrator. And here we clearly have an interactive, though teacher-centric educational environment. Technology is changing this. Nowadays, our classrooms tend to look more like this. Many students gathered around high technology, collaborating perhaps internationally, collaborating locally. We have new student-centric learning spaces. We are changing the way in which we educate engineers, and indeed everybody. How is this relevant to EASTEM as a project? It's relevant because 21st century education changes both the nature of knowledge curation and also the way in which we deliver that knowledge. It also changes the way in which we perceive access to information and knowledge, making it largely geographically independent. We can access knowledge through the internet wherever we are in the world, whenever we want to. And this really requires universities to reconsider why they gather students on campuses and educate in classrooms. That has to contribute something beyond what we can do in these virtual spaces. On the other hand, the virtual spaces, by removing the geographical limitations, really allow us to experience how learning can happen and how engineering can happen in other cultures, which is extremely important, and which is something that clearly is a focus of this particular project. So because I'm running a little bit short on time, we'll just move on again. Part of this idea is about reaching new stakeholders. We need to understand how to involve minorities. We need to understand how eliminating these geographical limitations will help us to empower learners across the globe. And we need to understand how these technologies that decouple education and learning from space and time can help us to realize this and integrate lifelong learning and industry participation and cultural growth and communication into our education of engineers. So what is our role? And what is the role of this type of project in producing this education of the future? We are shifting teaching practice in the engineering disciplines from a process of introspection and personal intuition to a scholarly driven and evidence-based area of development, where the project that you've all been involved in really helps us to understand in a scholarly manner what it is that we can do to improve education in a global sense. And it's all about paving the way for future engineers. And we're doing this in all sorts of different ways, through webinars talking about the future of engineering education, through large-scale initiatives at KTH in digital futures, and of course, through EASTEM and collaboration between different global partners. So what is EASTEM's contribution? It's building foundations for new generations of engineering programs. It helps to empower systematic reform of programs and educational practices. It creates links to regional needs and areas of concern. And it has some distinctive outcomes, I would say, including focusing on working-based learning and projects, working towards multidisciplinary programs and understanding the power of multidisciplinarity and intercultural communication. It provides a dual focus on both engineering design and student self-reflection and growth in a multicultural environment, and also addresses and explores new approaches to assess. In general, it also contributes to developing strong visionary educational leadership. And that's something that I think you should all be extremely proud of as part of the contribution of the EASTEM project. And with that, I will conclude and would be delighted to engage in discussion or any other type of question and answer format, or whatever you think is appropriate, Emilia.
Thank you very much, Professor. It was very interesting presentation. And as we have a little bit of time, I wonder if someone has a question, could either raise a hand and we will unmute, or to pose a question to the chat and the professor would be able to answer. So I give a few minutes if people would like to raise a hand or post a question in Q&A so we can answer. We can give it to the professor to answer it. Yes. And I give a few minutes. While you are thinking, I'll just introduce what will be a next point on our agenda. We will have soon a panel discussion with the topic of EASTEM project in a broader context. That will be moderated by the Professor Valentina Dagienė at Vilnius University in Lithuania, and Professor Valentina will introduce the speakers of the panel as well as the questions that are for the panelists. I'll just double check if we have any questions here or the participants. We have no questions so far that I can see. So I will thank so much, Professor Arnold, for your presentation. It was a pleasure to listen. Thank you very much. And now I would like to invite Valentina.
Thank you very much for all the work you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So Professor Valentina Dagienė, I would like to invite you to present this first panel discussion of today.
Hello, everybody. I'm really happy to see you all, and especially for this exciting talk of colleague Professor Arnold Peers. It's not easy to switch thinking to no panel discussion, but time is our very, very teeny today, tight today, and we need to be very fast and very efficient. So on the panel discussion, we have 4 panelists: Levin Chen, Sumitra Nikonchai, Narendra Vichangso, and Cecilia Johansson. So, and we have 3 questions, and now we will talk about first question, and each panelist has only 2 minutes. Please be very efficient, very quick, and I will copy this first question in the chat that we can see questions. And so please start. We will start probably in this row as it is in my first slide. We will start from Vietnam, then Thailand, then Indonesia, and then from Sweden. So that will be for each question. Now, first question is, what do you think about the STEM movement over the world and the STEM centers particularly? So it is global vision. Please, Levin Chen, please start.
Yeah, distinguished guests and participants. So I think STEM is growing on over the world. I think that because of its practical application and extremely impressive and easy to understand approach, and it is rather popular with students. And in our city, I mean Hue City, Hue University of Science is also bring the STEM into their main subjects. And along with that, we have a program to connect the university and enterprises and the governmental bodies to have their students to gain more skill before going to work. And the university can tailor their training program more closely to the need of the enterprise. And along with that, the government can provide more timely support for the common development over our province. So that's all about the question, the first question.
Thank you. Please, Sumitra, your turn.
Okay, thank you for the questions, and very honored to be here today. And in my opinions, because of I'm the private sector, we are the company, but we work with the school and the university and the students. So we think the core of the STEM is the teaching philosophy of the like a 4 subject into singles. So, but in the few years until present, last few years, the world is very changing so fast, and everything in the world have to like technology have so much you know, the role into our life, and STEM, it should be developed into many of the technology involved, like when we teach or when we use the tool to the school, and we should add more like a technology or the new thing, like the tools or the machines or everything that is make the like to make the student is more easier to understand and faster to understand. That's our opinion. And before, I think for the STEM, science is the main subject before you go to others. But right now, the technology is also important to have the more role to develop the curriculum and the project, everything. This is my answer. Thank you.
Thanks. Now we're jumping to Indonesia, Narenda.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity, especially for my teacher, Bu Inge. So STEM movement and working in general shift in directions and ways of implementation during the pandemic. However, this brings fresh perspective on how someone should work, implement, and instruct STEM. Fortunately, going fundamentally digital is one of our core values in the recent years, and the pandemic somehow benefit us in one way or another. Our users jumped to 500,000 last year. While we still see conventional methods used by teachers instructing STEM subject here in Indonesia, these conventional methods are largely being implemented through new media, for example, synchronous video conference. And going forward, this should transition into more sustainable and effective hybrid model. For example, combining asynchronous self-paced study and enforcing material review on synchronous session instead of delivering all materials on synchronous session. Thank you, Valentina. That's all my answer.
Thank you. And now the final floor, it's to Sweden, Cecilia.
Yes, I think that the STEM movement is really important. We definitely need to work to attract more young students into the subject. And I think that the way that we actually are teaching the students is contributing to kind of the interest for the subjects. So I think that the way that we are teaching can actually attract more intelligent young students to the subject. And I fully agree that working with the digital media it's both a challenge, but it's also a big opportunity. And I think that we can work from a more international collaboration part when it comes to the STEM subject. I think that's really a benefit, something that we can really use in the future for the STEM subject. So I think working with these STEM centers is also a way to spread good ways on how to use the pedagogy to actually get more deeper insight into the different subjects. So I think that the STEM centers really have something to contribute in this part.
Thank you, Cecilia. You are panelists, you are very efficient team, so we saved minutes and maybe then we can get some questions at the end. Actually, we used 6.5 minutes for, so this is fantastic. So now our second question, and the question is, I already put in chat, what generally can be achieved when working with STEM centers as in international STEM project? So again, think and again in the same line, we will start with Vietnam, Levin Chin. With your thought, please.
Yeah. In my opinion, STEM center can share experiences, resources. Material or even human resources, or to collaborate to boost STEM center each other. Maybe a different culture, like a different language, different culture, different way of teaching. But I think we can share resource efficiently to have a STEM center, to have STEM better in each country and in each university.
Thank you. Then we are going to Thailand. Sumitra. You are muted. Please unmute yourself.
Okay. So when we work with the STEM centers, I think we think about the support from to develop more the lessons or to exchange the knowledge or the projects that between the members, that the EASTEM can help to, the group of the members that can change and exchange like this, that to make it useful, and all the project is like this. To when we teach to the student, it should be can develop until into the real work with because you can see the creativities and all the work that have the possible to develop into because it's like this right now we have so many platforms in the world that if you can sell the idea, I think the STEM is very good because it's kind of it's a start, it's the beginning for all kids, all the students to, when they learn and they can make their own work and can present that, maybe they can make the whole career in the future. That is very important for us. And I think the STEM should be, and it can achieve is we can teach them and guide them to be like this, and to make to make them to get all the work into the futures. That's for their future also. And yes, this is my question, my answers.
Thanks, Sumitra. And now we are listening to Narendra.
Thank you. So I As each STEM center get increasingly specialized, collaboration as a practice become more important than ever. Therefore, having a network of STEM centers that have similarities will be beneficial in best practices and resource sharing. I'm from industry, and I think we've been like doing this recently with Minister of Education. We're working together with unicorn, with startup, with those who have a really same demand in terms of, I mean, like they are employer and have a demand of same digital talent. We work together with them, and it's really help, yeah, because their similarity will really shares the best practice on each other. And I think I agree STEM centers can collaborate and fill the gaps that we see in the market. And I think this is the biggest challenge that we have. The gap between students and the employer is quite high. So if we can work together on that, that will be really, really great.
Thanks for really interesting ideas that how we can cover this gap between students and other people. I think not only employees, but maybe also researchers and other people, because students, we need to connect. So thanks, Narendra. And now, Cecilia, your thoughts from Uppsala, from Sweden.
Yes, I think that the STEM centers definitely also could support each other, because I think when it comes to transforming how the teachers are teaching, it's not always easy to change how someone is actually teaching. So I think to have a support team from different countries, I think that is something that is very helpful. And I also see when we are moving forward, working more closely with industry, we are moving into something which is new. It's something that the teacher can't really 100% prepare yourself for what will happen during the teaching. So to have the kind of foundation and knowing that other people are working in the same way and that it's giving really good results when it comes to the knowledge for the students, I think that is a great support for the kind of teachers to train the trainers. So when we are supposed to work with our teachers, I think this is a great thing to have the STEM centers that can actually support each other, not just that the STEM centers are supporting the local teachers, but the STEM centers can actually support each other.
Thank you, Cecilia. And now we are going for our last question. It is about future. But now I looked at windows and it's big storm in Vilnius, in Lithuania coming. You see, I need to just to switch on lights. It's something quite terrible. It's outside. Okay, our last question is about our future, and I'm copied a question in the chat. What is the biggest challenge to sustain STEM centers' achievements in the future? It's really, really important question, and your thoughts is very important. Again, we will start with Levin Chen, please.
Yeah, I think especially in our country and in our city, I think there are 3 challenges that we need to face with. The first one is the possession of STEM. So in our city and in some university, they think and the understanding of STEM are quite different. So it's really hard to make STEM happen in those university efficiently. And the second thing is hard to find the STEM teacher. Even we have some kind of a TNT, train the trainer program in our EASTEM project. But in the future, I think it's quite hard to find the STEM teacher, because the teacher need to have some kind of the knowledge, the knowledge in different fields. And the third thing, I think maybe the integrated facility. because you know, to make STEM happen, we have to invest in some facility to make STEM easier for the students. Yeah, so those three things that I think the biggest challenge in our in the future, and especially in our city. Yeah.
Thanks, Levi. I like then you can short for three things, three very important things. Thank you. Maybe you can put in chat to remind all people what you told about these very important three things for STEM centers sustainability. So, and now, Sumitra, please, your floor.
Thank you. And for the biggest challenge to sustain STEM center, from my experience, like Mr. Xian said before about the trainer is very important, because I think the teachers is the key word, the important key for all the thing for the educations. Because if the teachers not move, definitely the student cannot get anything. So the trainer is very good good key to make it achieve for me. And have to put something more like as in my experience in Thailand, sometimes like you know, like the school is so many level, and we cannot, some school is very preparing, very ready to get many new things, but so many school is they have nothing. So we have to teach or train them, but after that many of teachers go back to school and they don't know how to start because of the environment and many things, and there's so many conditions. And that's why we think we should put more like a coachings, like after training we can follow up, and we have some like evaluate after that to help them to that they can get in their own way, if not 100%, but they can start from 50 or 60%. It should be good for the student. That is my my opinion. And another one is they have to learn more about like the hardware and the software, because if they lack some hardware because they don't have the budget or anything, some software can help them to learn more quickly, and to help the kids is far away can, you know, like to learn very fun, and to get all to know the world like a VR or AR or something like that. And the last thing that I think for the achieve for the sustaining in like if it's possible, is STEM can do like all the member can do like a friendship competition or something to send from all the members to send to like a, you know, like a STEM competitions that they can send the work, or that very impact, I think, for the student, teachers, even the parents and the school love to have some like some press that the kids, the student can show their performance after they learn something. Yeah, this is my idea. Thank you.
Thanks, Sumitra, and thanks for this deep thoughts about the importance of teachers, that we need to train trainees. Thank you. And now we are going to Indonesia again. Please, Narendra, your floor.
Okay, I think this is my favorite question. What is the biggest challenge to sustain STEM center achievement in the future? So basically, STEM centers are the part of education system and inherits its traits. We've seen STEM centers become obsolete, and it's so imperative that we make the effort to stay relevant. So to continue to remain relevant in this era, we must, the first one is engage in intensive industry partnership. And the second is implement lifelong learning as one of our core employment values. And the third one is relearn and evaluate every step of the way we work. And the last one, learn how each generation work and approach things in order to learn from them in the future. And the last one is very interesting. I just had a discussion with many HR experts yesterday. And for example, the current generation that we're trying to employ is actually totally different, yeah, with the generation that I employed like 5 years ago. So it's very interesting to see things that make them interesting to pursue something. So this is just example, means that, yes, we need to learn how each generation. So yeah, I think that's all from me.
Oh, you pointed 5 items, very important items in very short time. So you are very, very efficient to work. Thank you, Narendra. And now we going to Sweden. Cecilia, your floor to finalize this question.
Yes, and I think we have a number of challenges when it comes to sustaining the STEM centers. First of all, I think one of the boring one is funding. So we need to continue to have support so that we actually can support the STEM centers to continue to do their work. And then I also think that a challenge when it comes to the individual teacher, if you're working with industry, it takes an effort to collaborate with industries to find these interesting, challenging projects, because you can't really reuse the projects from one year to another. So you need to, as a teacher, almost reinvent yourself. What type of projects and what type of issues are interesting to work with right now? And I think compared to more kind of traditional teaching, where you can just use the textbook and go through things, this requires more from the teachers to have more collaboration with industry. I think that is a big challenge, especially for the teachers, but it's also what makes the education for the students so interesting, to really get the connection with the industry already during the student studies.
Thank you, Cecilia. And now I see that Levincen wrote these proposals. I encourage other panelists, also Narendra and Sumitra and Cecilia, to write down very, very important maybe items that maybe we can look to what, because we had so many interesting ideas, so many brainstorming here in this half an hour, actually in 25 minutes. So now we have still 8 minutes left. And do we have questions?
We have actually, I see in the chat one question. Tatiana poses the question to the panelists. What is the situation of attracting more women, girls into STEM profession in your countries? I think the one who feels like taking this question, so please unmute yourself from the panelist and feel free to answer it.
Yeah, please, from panelists, who would like to answer? Or raise your hand. I see Cecilia.
Yes, I could start. We have, when it comes to our engineering programs, we can see a real difference between the more kind of traditional classical engineering programs, like, for example, the physics programs, or compared to when we're turning more into environmental programs, or more when we are combining engineering with more humanities-oriented programs. That is actually something that is attracting more young girls to the programs. We actually, for some of the environmental programs, we have more girls. We actually have the opposite problem. We need to attract more guys to the programs. So I think that how we are kind of framing the topics is really important to get a broader part or broader participation within the programs.
Oh, thank you, Cecilia. What about others from Asian perspectives? Sumitra, yeah, you wanted, yeah?
Sorry, is the same questions?
Yeah, to the same about girls in engineering. Can you comment, or would you like to comment? Or?
No, pass.
No.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
I can comment.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can. Narendra, please.
Okay, so it's very interesting. Yeah, I probably only represent Indonesia because when we're trying to open the scholarship program, for example, it's only about, usually the ratio is only about less than 20%. To be exact, it's 17%. And of course, we're working together with many stakeholders in the nation, working together with multinational as well to increase this number. Why this is important? Because we believe the diversity will increase the innovation. So the fact is actually less women who actually on STEM, yeah, for to be specific. So what we're trying to do is we increase the number of people who will get scholarship in terms of gender. So we never actually, publish this, but this is the reality. And this is what we're trying to do, because what we're trying to aim is we want to increase the number of women on tech, because we believe that's the core key to innovation.
Thank you. And I see one more question, what is very interesting, at least for me also, that it's on connection to K-12, to schools. Are there any difference of STEM center for K-12 compared to higher education?
Mhm.
Who would like to answer, please? About differences between STEM center in universities, higher education, and the STEM center for schools, for K-12.
School, university.
Who would like to comment?
I have, yes. I think the K-12 and the university is very close to, the level, and the university, they have like the subject or the faculty that the student already choose, and that's why the STEM, it should be, I think it should be in some faculty. It's not all the faculty that they can go to the STEM center, but the K-12, it is still in the school, and it's a high school that the teachers and all the STEM center can make like the same curriculum on the project in the same level. I think so. It makes a difference. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, you are right. I think also that in Vilnius University, we're also discussing to open the STEM center for schools, for pupils and teachers. And we have this idea to teach teachers together with pupils, so that we can focus on both levels. And of course, it is challenging to teach in both levels, but it's very important to have teachers, to prepare teachers that they can teach in more holistic way. Because especially in schools, you should look not on subjects, as you, Sumitra, also mentioned, but it should be to show way how to integrate science, biology, for example, mathematics, and to use technologies and everything. It's one possibility to see this integrated world as the STEM centers, I think.
Yeah.
Does anybody has more comment from panelists? We have 2 minutes left. No? No thoughts? Then we can have a 1 minute longer break. Amelia, what do you think?
Thank you, Valentina, and thank you, panelists, for such a great discussions. It was really very interesting to follow. And I agree, if there are no more questions, I cannot see any questions in the chat and no raising hands from the attendees, then I think we can take a break. And the break will be 10 minutes. So we will be back at 4:10 in Asia, 10 in Central European time, back to our event. So have a nice break and see you soon, everyone. So I would like to slowly welcome everybody to come back to our event. Our panelists are already ready here. And I would like to introduce you to our now second panel, and that will be focused on knowledge gain from teaching and learning methodologies. And it will be moderated by Associate Professor Siegfried Rouvray from IMTA University in France. So Siegfried, the floor is yours. So we are curious about this panel now.
Okay, thank you so much, Emilia. Everyone hear me? It's okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yep, perfect. So we'll engage now on the panel 2 till 2045. The main topic is about knowledge gain from teaching and learning methodologies, thanks to the EASTEM partnership. So I'm Siegfried Rouvray, Associate Professor in Computer Science and System Engineering at IMT Atlantic, which is a graduate and postgraduate engineering school in France and in Brittany. And so for our panel, we have 3 guests from the EASTEM partnership. We have Dr. Wanapong Priampo, who is from Thailand in Bangkok and chairperson of the Center of Excellence in STEM Education at Middle East University, if I remember well. We have also Mary Margarita, who is Dean of the Faculty of Biotech at ITDL in Indonesia. And we have also Nguyen Vulan, who is Deputy Head of the Office of Science and Technology and International Affairs in Vietnam at HCMUT. And so we'll, as before with the Valentina panel, go on 3 questions here. So maybe Emilia can share just a slide. I will record question 1 in the chat soon.
Yes, I'm trying to share, but it froze a bit for me. So Siegfried,
okay, so it froze. So
continue.
I put in the chat
yes.
The question 1. And so we put it to everyone, sorry. 1 second about that. So the main topic and then the question 1, and I will record it. So before giving the floor to the 3 panelists, so question 1 is more about what knowledge has been gained from teaching and learning methodologies used in EASTEM in the 3 partner countries, let's say. So if okay, I will let the floor maybe in the order of the panelists which are appearing on the screen now. Maybe Wanapong from Thailand. Do you have some visions or thoughts to share about the teaching and learning methodologies, and especially on question 1, what knowledge was gained on that thanks to the EASTEM project? So Wanapong.
Thank you, Professor Siegfried. Hello, everyone, and it's a great pleasure for me to be here. For the knowledge gain, for me, it's about both knowledge and skill of how to learn, how to learn to design learning activity to manage class, and how to try to make people feel engaged, student, teacher, and want to learn more, learn creatively and effectively to become better. I feel like EASTEM projects gave me a great opportunity to meet more people, teacher, professor, especially internationally, with common goal. It's opened my view a lot to learn from them. That's a great, my passionate teacher, professor. Of course, as you know, that with the last 2 years, right, with the pandemic, so many technology and innovation, enhanced learning come to play in the game so much, and it's very dominated. We came from normal, in not so normal, right, and then the new normal, and then we have the new model of learning, schooling, like in-person, hybrid, or fully remote, learning, something like that. But on the bright side, it's allow us it's an opportunity for us all to come up with a new trick, new techniques, new tool to manage class, to make people try to manage the class, to make people learn effectively and creatively. I think that our activities and knowledge sharing or something could be done better, and that's what happened, and that opportunity for me to learn. Finally, I'd like to mention that in the last 3 years, by working together with Thailand University, Pin of Songkla, Chiang Mai University, and Mahidol University, we could manage to host the three national webinar concerning the student center and STEM. More than 2,000 participants, all level of education from primary school to higher order education. And that's a great opportunity for us, I think all, to learn from them, learn from their gap, their pain point, from their experience. And then we could apply that to redesign, right? That make us to kind of rethinking and reinventing education based on STEM and student center. Thank you.
Sorry, my mic was shut. Thank you so much, Wanapong, and super and grand bravo to learn that with the 3 national webinars, you met so many participants, more than 1,000, which is really great for dissemination and make more knowledge dissemination about the EASTEM teaching and learning approach and so on, especially during the emergency remote programs. So Mary, what's your opinion for Indonesia and visions maybe?
Yeah, thank you, Sigrid. Hello, everyone. During the EASTEM program for these last 3 years, we have already carried out approximately 21 internal activities for our lecturers and about 8 external activities, especially for K-12 teachers in districts around our campus. During our activities conducted EASTEM project in our university and in the schools, we gain the enrichment of methods applicable in student-centered learning, both in K-12 and in the higher education, and also have many sharing of methods for teaching assessment, both in online and offline. We also receive inputs on best practices that has been carried out by our teachers, our lecturers, and from K-12 teachers from several districts around our campus, where we conduct the trainings. From that, we know that student-centered learning method is not something completely new for some lecturers and teachers who have advanced view, even though maybe they may not realize yet maybe that the method they have used is teaching method that is actually very good, and its effects are needed to improve their students' literacy and numeracy competency. Thank you, Siegfried.
Thank you so much, Mary. And also good to know that you had more than 20 training activities, and even you reach the K-12 dimensions with the K-12 teachers to advance and go further on student-centered learning and approach, which is great. Vulan from HTMUT, what are your visions for Vietnam?
Thank you so much. I'm sorry, I was out right at the moment when we started. Anyway, let me come back to the answer for this question, the very first question. I'm telling you about the information I collected from our 3 Vietnamese partner universities, and we can say we have actually gained various valuable knowledge through implementing the EASTEM project in terms of advanced teaching learning methodologies to encourage both faculty members and students in the STEM fields. Well, the EASTEM project with its strategical activities has significantly enhanced the implementation of the project-based constructivism, student-centered teaching methods, in which students actually actively explore the knowledge through experience, lab works, or design and manufacturing prototypes under the support of the coaches who are the teachers. The thought of the STEM education has helped to approach a comprehensive strategy of teaching especially the idea of integrated teaching in Vietnam universities with special attention to cross subjects and interdisciplinary cooperation. On the other hand, EASTEM was one more very good experience for all of us to, at first level, the online teaching and learning efficiency, as mentioned by the
Maybe the connection is not good enough for Wulan. Can you confirm other participants that we don't hear him anymore?
We lost him, that I can
Yeah,
see also.
so we lost him. So just to recall that Wulan argued clearly that about experiential learning, student-centered learning, and also online teaching, which were really engaged in Vietnam by the three participant institutions. And he gave some vision about the problematic of putting this at a more systemic level with the Ministry of Education, for example, and strategies and visions at national level. So maybe we can move to the question number 2 of this panel, which I will put on the chat. So which is about more now, what are the main challenges to sustain student-centered learning and education in the future in your country? So maybe to start with Wanapong in Thailand, what's your opinion about sustaining these challenges about student-centered learning? Wanapong, I let you the floor if you want.
Okay, thank you very much. I think the keyword is sustainable and changing, right? So I think what we need is education or learning for the future, right? For the future. So traditionally, when we want learning and teachings effective, we think about how to make our students to learn as lifelong learning, right? Or to become the master learner, right? Learn their best. But now, so many factors involved. So you can see that we cannot, the keyword is about change or transformation, I think, to make things happen. But and we cannot make it happen by just changing something in the classroom. I think it also requires some organization, I mean, systematic change. For example, if we cannot change some curriculum, there's now many curriculum is quite fixed or rigid curriculum, and that's not what this generation or next generation want. So they demand some greater freedom, liberal to choose, to have more choice. That's the key. So I think and we have to ask what really university, what's it learning, right? We used to define what's the cooking, right? In the past, I mean, without microwave oven, right? We define cooking one things, but now we define what is learning, right? About the learning, I think especially active learning, it might be redefined. What really, I mean, student-centered or active learning. I think we need to do more and get the new norm for this teaching and learning, using the combination of human nature, right? We are human nature. So human interaction in combination with technology and innovation. That's how to make it become healthy. And at least, I mean, for me now, after I involved in this program, designing STEM activity become my food supplement every day. I feel happy that I could think of some activity for students to learn the new things. And I think we have to understand student learning style and what really the ultimate goal is not the degree or diploma as an award anymore. They have to compete for employment, things like that. So competency-based, outcome-based would come to help to design activity for them. And then I think we can get from there and to make this go together as STEM-based, student-centered, and the next generation curriculum. So, thank you.
Super, merci beaucoup, Wanapong. So was good to echo also about what was said by Vulan before about going more at a systemic level and maybe about the problematic of Ministry of Education and accreditation and constraints. So you argue that there is a need of systemic change now, and we need more curriculum agility, flexibility somehow to have some more freedom, and also listen more maybe to the student needs. What about experiential learning, active learning, and so on. But to hear more the student voice, to give more some flexibility in case of crisis as we had recently and still have for most of us. Mary, what are your opinions for Indonesia on that stuff, knowing also that you have Campus Merdeka and freedom of learning in place now with the ministry?
Actually we face challenges also during the implementation of our activities related to the to sustain student-centered education. But the main challenge we find in the term of the readiness of the students, teachers, and the school. For students, their orientation of studying or playing may be misunderstood. Moreover, the concept of lifelong learners has not been understood and has not yet become a mindset for the students. For the lecturers in higher education, in my opinion, the readiness to accept and apply student-centered education in the learning process is already better, although it still requires improvement and development. Unlike the case with the K-12 teachers, not entirely of course, but some teachers still question whether student-centered learning is really needed for the 21st century skills. And also the concept of lifelong learning has not been understood for some K-12 teachers. Even though there are also many teachers who are very passionate about absorbing new knowledge and will implement the knowledge about SEL-based teaching methods, which they feel will be able to improve the quality of their students in the future. And in terms of school readiness, some schools in remote area in our districts are not ready with the basic infrastructure for teaching aid, for example, the internet access. Moreover, some schools are restricted with policy which hinders them from applying the student-centered learning in their class. The policy, for example, provide targets for schools so that their graduates can be accepted in superior secondary schools, while the learning process itself related to the student-centered learning has not been fully implemented. These conditions are challenges for us to carry out more frequent socialization and training related to the application of SEL in the learning process and its benefit for improving our students' quality. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. So excellent to hear about the readiness of students, the problematic of lifelong learning, understanding first, so that everyone is fully aware of what is it and the potentialities behind, and about quality enhancement, say continuous improvement. We need to go step by step, and so it's a long time process for sure to meet the 21st century skills and so on, and also about the problematic of policy and regulations, and which need to be aligned and take time also to diffuse in all higher education sectors or K-12. So good to know about also the visions of Vulan in Vietnam about the challenges to sustain student-centered learning at the time.
Sure, yes. And I hope that the connection will be not lost again. Coming back to the question number 2, in fact, I would like to share several challenges for Vietnam. The very first thing is about the teaching and learning style at Vietnam. At this moment, we can say that traditional education model and teaching culture are still existing and becoming quite obsolete to some extent, especially in the STEM programs. Therefore, a national level strategy for student-centered education should be identified throughout the country. Along with this strategy should be a detailed domestic documents for STEM education guidance for teachers. I think that is a very good solution for this problem. And the second thing is about the awareness and intention and efforts of teachers and students to implement the student-centered activities in order to do it systematically and in their teaching and learning progress, they need to see that it is a must. It is not like an additional function or something like they are doing at this moment. And also the third one, we can say about the comprehensive renovation for the training curricula. When we would like to integrate the student-centered approach into the curriculum training curricula, because it is a huge change in order to make it comprehensively. So it will also take time and quite much effort as well. The fourth one, maybe we can say it is very possible. It is very important to improve the capability and teaching skills of teachers in order to organize and conduct effectively the student-centered classes. And also in the role of students, we also need quite similar things. It is very necessary to improve the learning competence and skills of students to follow up with the student-centered classes. As we can see, for these kinds of classes, we actually ask them to do many things, much more than in the traditional style. So if they are not active enough, then it's going to be a very big challenge for the success of the student-centered methodology. Also, we need to improve the current infrastructure for STEM teaching and learning facilities. I think there is a big similarity among our three countries, because when we talk about the advanced teaching methodologies, but the infrastructure is not so advanced, then there is still a big gap between these two things. And the last thing, maybe the cooperation with business, with the industry should be more in deep. I mean, over here is that we need to sustain it more effectively, and maybe we need to have more sanctions to keep them in control and also keep them in agreement. So these are the main things I believe that can be considered as the challenges for Vietnam. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vulan. Very inspiring. So maybe to try to synthesize. So an investigation on teaching and learning style to reinforce in the country now, especially for STEM education, and to work more on the awareness. It may be a must, but even if it's a must by the ministry, we could say, or whatever, faculty and teachers need to engage more naturally and so on. And also, as you said, we are now all facing huge changes in higher education, especially STEM education, and we need to work more on renovation and transformation of actually, going back to the agility we spoke before maybe. And so infrastructure and workspaces to have some student-centered learning is a key for sure. And maybe it's a good idea, as we can see in some countries sometimes, and maybe already in Vietnam, that we have some connections with industry and we can share sometimes workspaces, and sometimes industry pay or have some foundations also with university to have some kind of learning labs where the students can go, but it's managed also by a company or a pool of companies and so on. So it's a medium, also an instrument to create some shared workspaces and outside of the real wall of the university, but already somehow in the company. So now moving to the last question of this panel, that is to end in 10 minutes, no more. So I put it on the chat. Now it's done. So what are the spin-offs? So like unexpected events, stories, and so on, when applying new methods for teaching and learning that you have seen, or do you see maybe of still potential in your country or university? So letting the floor to Wanapong on the spin-offs, thanks to EASTEM.
Okay, thank you. Regarding to this question, the first thing that I like to say is that, I mean, whenever we apply teaching, right, maybe the same old teaching, but we have to experience the new group of students, or we apply the new type of teaching to to all new batch of students. What we experience as a teacher, also a learner, is a lesson learned, right? And I was asked since I was student that we have to expect to learn an unexpected things, and learn by accident, learn into something, and to learn that's key. But now if we're talking about, we try to apply the new method, okay, to for learning and teaching. I thought that when I started doing some STEM learning and teaching, I never thought that it would be more difficult in terms of learning psychology, especially with the coming of pandemic. I thought that our job mostly is how to engage students, stimulate my knowledge, and that's all. I mean, try to make them know more, can do more, something like that. But it turned out that I have experienced myself is about critical, social, emotional thing that we need to support students, to make them, especially the students that have different background. Otherwise, we are the part that accelerate or exacerbate, widen the gap of learning capability of student itself. So it's about relationship, it's about leadership and scholarship could be. So and this thing we have to rethink about, I mean, pro and con to implement the new things. We have to know what the transition change, right, of some people. Sometimes change happen with like radical change, incremental change, things like that. And we don't want to get students behind, even though they usually have some students left behind when we apply the new teaching and learning. But the good news is, with the philosophy of student center, we tend not to leave somebody behind, but we need to do proactively to have the good prepare for that, to learn about students before we get to see student or to learning. And then after that, we have to have some kind of cycle, to do our homework, to get back to the class and fix something and make them better, especially the skill of how to learn. And I think, for example, for problem-based learning, I used to give problem-based learning to a student in the second or third class. I mean, I try to change the problem in the back of the textbook into STEM-based learning. But it turned out that some students are not ready to discuss with others, I mean, to pursue this problem-based learning. So that I have to come with some scaffolding to make, I mean, to give them combination of lecture and problem to discuss first, and make them ready to go another step of problem-based learning, to get them engaged or feel not so difficult to work collaboratively and cooperatively. I think that and student center and STEM-based learning is one of the good tool, I think, to help our students to step out to compete with the world, something like that. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Wanapong, for your light and the vision about social and emotional dimensions, which are great to remember also. And so maybe also to recall us that the well-being of students is very important, even on social dimension. It's not only to learn about disciplines and STEM or whatever, but also it was clearly questioned during the pandemic about the well-being of students on a social dimension, and also of teachers, faculty, and so on. We need to take care also on this by rethinking programs and so on. So to reinforce collaboration and whatever the conditions for. Mary, on your side in Indonesia, what are your visions or perspective on spin-offs?
Yep. Okay, the spin-off we found when applying new methods related to the student-centered learning for teaching and learning was that students felt more comfortable giving feedback regarding the learning activities they had done. And this feedback is, of course, very useful for improvement and upgrade in the future teaching and learning process. I think this kind of reaction from students is very difficult to get when we are still using the teacher-oriented learning method. And one other positive reaction from the students is that they are more open to the competencies that is actually needed in the world of work, and what they have to do to achieve those competencies during their education. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary, about the comfortability of students about this kind of teaching or learning styles. Excellent to know that we still have many work to do to go further. And Vulan, on your side in Vietnam, what are your unexpected event stories on spin-offs thanks to EASTEM project on what was done on teaching and learning activities?
Yes, interestingly, we have the same problem, I guess, for the students and teachers. I absolutely agree with what my colleagues over here have just shared, and the content I'm sharing is also somewhat like just only like a more concise way. In fact, we can see that teachers work harder for preparation phase, but teaching process is easier and better organized. So this is the advantage of the student-centered method. However, if the preparation is failed, or I can say it is carelessly prepared, then maybe it will cause the disorder in the class activities. And this is the reason why when we want to make the student-centered classes, the preparation is at the very first priority. And on the side of the students, of course, as you can see, the teachers can have the advantage to teach less, coach more. However, they will leave the students with more space for self-exploration. However, if the students are not so capable or not so good at the self-learning skills, then maybe we witnessed that some students got lost in their tasks. Over here, we can say that student-centered method is not like one-to-one teaching. That means just only one teacher and one student teaching and learning process. So if they are not, like Wannapong just mentioned, if they're not actually active in the teamwork, then some students will not achieve the same as the others. And for that reason, more activeness needed for learners. For example, active assessment fulfillment, active assignment fulfillment, and group interaction or communication or feedback. So these are the things that we face during our implementation in terms of teachers and in terms of students. I would like to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vulan, for this perspective. And it brings back to me about students self-learning, and so it's a step-by-step process and so on. And maybe K-12 students, when they arrive in our higher education system and so on, are not so prepared to collaborate and to work in new kind of pedagogical models. But we have to do so. It's always a continuous approach about changing also K-12 and whatever systems. But the main point, I think, is to reinforce the capability of our students to learn. So being more capable to learn in other pedagogical styles or models or whatever. And learning to learn is also kind of outcome or learning outcome. And so we need to train our students to be capable to learn in such kind of new context before maybe going directly to the scientific or STEM learning outcomes. So being capable to collaborate and to accept feedback, to self-assess and so on. So it's totally new dimensions maybe. So many thanks for the three of you, Wannapong, Mary and Vulan, about all these insights and perspectives. And thank you all for your reflection and inspiring ideas, and which opens many potential transformations for higher education sector, and maybe more about student-centered learning, but not only, sometimes more at systemic level, as we heard. And so I think we're on time. I can let the floor to Emilia to close and maybe to give a final reflection on this. And we're okay now. So many thanks to all and all the participants.
Thank Thank you very much, Siegfried, and thank you very much all the panelists. It was very great discussions. And I actually would like to ask if somebody from our attendees, participants would have any questions, which can be still posed on the chat, or if you raise the hand and just ask them directly, because we still have some time for one question. So if somebody is typing a question, please raise your hand and we can discuss it all together. Otherwise, while somebody is still thinking maybe for a question, I am wanting to tell that the time is really melting today. So many good reflections, good points that I cannot believe that we are reaching the last point in agenda. Yes, and as there's no questions that I can see, then I guess I would like to tell you about this last point that is about summary of the event and the EASTEM project, which I would like to invite the Professor Dr. Valentina Dagiene from Vilnius University and Associate Professor Siegfried Rouvre from IMTA University and Professor Mats Daniels together with Associate Professor Anders Berglund from Uppsala University to give the ending speeches or ending reflections for this event as well as the EASTEM project. So we can start maybe then from Valentina, Professor Valentina.
Thanks, Emilia. I'm really excited of all discussions and so really constructive discussions, I would say, and a lot of thoughts like brainstorming. It's amazing. I hadn't seen such diverse and such fruitful discussion just in 2 hours. We are really, partners are so excellent. But my talk would be like to say thanks, but I know that Anders will say much better, much thanks to each than I leave and I contribute to Anders' talk. For thanking all partners, I would like to stress on 2 items. One is actually they are very close, but one is a collaboration that we with these Asian partners, with all universities, with Uppsala, with France, and with all Indonesian and Thailand and Vietnam universities, that we can share. I know that we are busy, but perhaps we can think and 1-2 times per year, we can send some news, we can introduce something, just we can collaborate in this area of STEM centers, because we are all somehow involved. And this is to continue collaboration, to have this network is amazing and continue. And second, my item is as a researcher, as a university professor, I always like to make research, to write papers, research papers. And I really would be very happy to collaborate with, especially in education, with technology, because it's my field, but it can be also more broader. But can we just make some questionnaires? And I know that my colleagues, Vladimiras and some others also are interested in making papers. And I would like to say that Indonesia has exceptional this year because they're doing Olympiad in informatics, international Olympiad with more than 80 countries. Probably will be face-to-face. We are looking for this. And Indonesia can also to connect some research and Ingranilium is very responsible for this huge network. Also Bebra's network, which is on computational thinking, and computational thinking is for all. It's not for only computer science, but computational thinking is for all STEM, for STEAM, for all our young people and we can do the research connecting this all network. So that I wish you networking and meet face to face. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Valentina. And now, Associate Professor Siegfried, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Emilia. Sorry. Good to hear about the Valentina also visions and feedback. So I will try so not to give too much blah blah. I'm French, so Emilia, do not hesitate to interrupt me. But going back to the main objective of the project, all our STEM universities in Asia, but also in Europe, clearly face the challenge and tensions of employability and competencies of our graduates, and it was the main objectives of this project. And it was clearly exacerbated by the 2020 pandemic, which resonate still in all our sectors worldwide. And so I will go back on just two good souvenirs I had, not recalling all about the project. One first is more, we could say, on the deliverables, and the other one will be more cultural. So the first one is about when we worked about how to improve the relationship between education and employment. I was very much impressed by the ASEAN partners during the industry collaboration meeting we had in October, organized by IMT, also in Paris. But it was mainly online, of course. It was during the pandemic. And the idea was to bridge a gap between STEM university and industry as far as possible. And so we had some French companies who participated and helped us to define some strategies, we could say. We formulated 8 university business industry collaboration models and a plethora of good practices, which mainly came from ASEAN countries, so Vietnam, Indonesia, and Thailand. It was really great for us in France to discover many good ideas and opportunities even for the French higher education system. And also about your capacity to engage in strategical canvas and align this with the vision, mission, and strategies of an institution with KPI and so on, so key performance indicators. So it was not only about flexibility and so on, but you are clearly capable to go more deeply on engagement, maybe than in France, which is quite traditional in all university systems. So it was a real collaboration. We learned a lot also from the European perspective, and it was really great about that. And more on a personal dimension, and I'm sure my colleagues from IMT and IMT Atlantic, Gilles, Nathalie, Charlotte, Martin, Gabriel, and so on, will share my view. It's just a small example, but finally it hurts me, you could say, on a good point. When we were in Chiang Mai meeting, it was in February 2020, sorry, before the pandemic. We were in a huge hotel. And Chiang Mai University was a super university with a really great international dimension. And at that time, it was before the pandemic in France. And a researcher or prof in computer science from UNUD University in Bali, in Indonesia, and he's in the meeting today, prompted us, it was me and Gilles, to use a mask and offered us a mask. For the pandemic, which maybe was starting. And from our vision, we're in France, we are very arrogant and we have a lot of ego and so on. So it's part of our values, we could say. And I think for the first time, I touched the gotong royong principle, which is a cultural value in Indonesia. And we discussed this with Ingriani after. And we were not understanding why it was necessary to use masks at that time from our French perspective. And when I came back just after the meeting in France in the airport, then I understood something. And so gotong royong is literally meaning mutual assistance. In Indonesia, it's a kind of collaboration with empathy, compassion, and in order to share of burdens and so on. And I think in France, we have to learn more about this. So this cultural value. And finally, during the pandemic, and thanks to EASTEM project, I learned even more about gotong royong principle, so mutual assistance. And I was impressed by the capacity of all the partners to interact even during the pandemic and to share ideas and elaborate good practices and so on. And also to break the frontiers, kind of Pink Floyd The Wall film, you see, about interacting with industrials, alumni, and looking also at the K-12 level and to broaden the perspective about STEM curriculum ideas and preparing the next transformations. And so just to move more to my conclusion, STEM curricula require more and more agility. We saw that in the panels to recover and progress despite VUCA crisis, we could say, so volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. As for the pandemic, but as for volcano eruption, tsunami, typhoons, and pandemics, crises, financial wars, whatever. Sometimes driven by the nature, sometimes driven by the humans, which is not so often so funny. And so I just closing by echoing the European strategies about the EASTEM project. We need more systemic, structural and sustainable transnational cooperation to enhance all of our curricula, I would say, and the support of higher education to make a substantial leap in quality, performance, attractiveness of our students and our future professors on a worldwide dimension, we could say. And so we at IMT in France and IMT Atlantic in Brittany really hope that this collaboration can continue in the future for the best of STEM education worldwide, and also for our personal dimension, we could say, and cultural dimensions, and to further deepen, intensify, and expand the effectiveness of this cooperation would be really great when you see that. So thank you, that's all.
Thank you very much, Sigrid. Thank you. And I would like to ask now the Professor Mats Daniels, together with Associate Professor Anders Berglund from Uppsala University, to also give some ending reflections and speech. The floor is yours.
I think we start with Anders.
Yes, please, Anders. You are unmuted, so you are muted. So please unmute yourself.
Sorry. Now I'm unmuted.
Great.
First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone. This has been great fun. There has been a lot of good effects on a good outcome, but it has been mainly fun, I think, to work with all of you. And since I've been in this in the beginning, before the project even existed, it was me, Mats, Siegfried, Arnold, maybe some more, from the very, very beginning. Then we had a small idea about doing something in an Asian-European collaboration for everyone to learn about STEM education, about student-centered learning, about improving that for everyone. And we had a small idea. And then we started to discuss this with our will-be partners, those we wanted to be partners, and the idea grew. We came with more tracks, we came in with more complex thinking. It became actually quite a good idea. So we decided to send the application to the European Union. And you know what you do when you write an application for something. You think you should do this, and you say you will do this. So we said this, but what happened is that we all did not this and not this, but this far beyond my arms in any direction, in anywhere in the world. We did so well. We did so well together. The project got a life on its own that took it further than any project plan ever would have done. And that is why it has been such a fun project. And then I want to say thanks to you for being both competent partners, to all of you in Europe and Asia, making this possible, and also so nice partners. So spending some extra energy on this project would always be fun. Then the project has ended, but I really hope our contacts have not. Feel free to contact at least Mats and me, but I think this applies to everyone, from everyone to everyone, about further collaborations, guest lectures, seminars, new projects, conferences, joint papers, whatever you could imagine. We think that the project is a formal way of getting in contact with each other. It's not the end of our work. So please keep in touch. I will almost use up our time. You may add the phrase.
Yeah, well, I kind of knew that. I'll just say I agree with what you said and what Valentina and Siegfried also said. I'd like to reinforce this idea of writing. Valentina brought it up, and I think there is so much that you could spread, that you can disseminate about what's been happening in this project. So please write and contact us if you have ideas. We will be interested in being part, of course. And I think many of you have been hinting at this, and well, fortunately, this is a never-ending issue. This is something that will continue. We are not done. We've done a great deal, and as Anders said, a lot. And I think we should be really proud and be happy that this is something that we could continue working with, because there is a need for this. There is and we are in a good position to actually make some difference to the world and to the education. And so yes, this has been great, and thank you all.
Thank you very much for all the final words, and also from the project management perspective, I want to say great thankful for all the partners for the big work you are doing. Thank you for all the speakers of today and the panelists. It was a pleasure to have you here today. If not this project and if not the work you all have been doing for 3 years, we wouldn't be here all together now. So big thank you, and I hope we're gonna collaborate in the future. Thank you for today, everyone, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Goodbye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yeah, goodbye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
See you again.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
That's the right way to put it.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Collaborate.